Major breaking news out of Pennsylvania this morning. We now know the apparent motive in the arson attack on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's mansion during the Passover holiday. The suspect in the arson, Cody Balmer, told investigators that he targeted Shapiro, who is Jewish, due to his perceived stance on Palestine. That's according to a search warrant obtained this morning by Penn Live. Balmer called 911 following the attack, which happened early Sunday during Passover after Shapiro had had the first night of Seder with his family. Balmer identified himself by his name and told operators that Shapiro needs to know he, quote, will not take part in his plans for what he wants to do to the Palestinian people, end quote. That's according to the search warrant written by police in Pennsylvania. Balmer went on to tell authorities that Shapiro needed to, quote, stop having my friends killed, end quote, and that, quote, our people have been put through too much by that monster, end quote. That, again, that's according to the search warrant. The document says that Balmer's intonation and cadence of his speech sounded like he may have been reading from a prepared script, according to the search warrant. He also told authorities on that call, quote, you all know where to find me. I'm not hiding, and I will confess to everything that I had done, end quote. Balmer made that call at 2:50 a.m. Sunday. That was less than an hour after the firebombing of Governor Shapiro's mansion in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. More new details in the case coming to light due to this search warrant. Balmer's ex-girlfriend called police and told them that Balmer had told her he was responsible for the arson attack on Shapiro's governor's mansion. Later that day, on Sunday, Balmer approached state police headquarters in Harrisburg in order to surrender himself for the crime. In the warrant for his electronic devices, a captain in the Pennsylvania State Police says Balmer targeted Shapiro, quote, based upon perceived injustices to the Palestinian people, end quote, as well as Shapiro's Jewish faith. Police said they have video of Balmer scaling the security fence at the governor's mansion and using a hammer to break windows and climb inside to throw Molotov cocktails and start a fire inside the property. The governor's mansion was very badly burned. Large sections of the property are uninhabitable and charred by fire and smoke. There was a really chilling image on the Passover table where Shapiro and his family had just celebrated the first night of Passover that showed ashes heaped on Passover plates and a burnt Haggadah, which is the Jewish prayer book to follow the Passover rituals and observe Passover. Now, this anti-Semitic attack on Shapiro, and it is, of course, an anti-Semitic attack because he was targeted for his support of Israel because of the fact that he is Jewish. Of course, Shapiro has no involvement in any of the military operations that are going on in Gaza or in Israel. He's the governor of Pennsylvania. He was a leading candidate to become then Vice President Kamala Harris's vice presidential running mate in the 2024 election, but far-left activists targeted Shapiro for his stances on Israel, for supporting the Jewish state. They fixated on his positions on that matter, and in doing so managed to sink his candidacy. Tim Walz was named Harris's running mate, and both were eventually defeated by President Donald Trump in November. Shapiro is considered a potential leading candidate for the presidency in 2028 on the Democratic ticket. Shapiro, in addition to supporting Israel during this ongoing conflict with Hamas, the terror organization, previously called for dismantling the pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Pennsylvania last year after demonstrators attempted to occupy a building on campus. In other words, after demonstrators broke the law. That's when Shapiro called for this dismantling of their encampment. Now, Dauphin County District Attorney Fran Sciardo, the prosecutor in Harrisburg, said he has not decided yet whether he will charge Balmer with, quote, ethnic intimidation. That's Pennsylvania's version of the hate crime statute. But he did say he will argue that Ballmer's motives should make his sentencing more severe if convicted. Again, this seems like a pretty clear-cut case of an anti-Semitic hate crime, but Chardo has not decided yet whether he will use that hate crime statute in this case. Ballmer has already been charged with 8 crimes, including several first-degree felonies like attempted murder, arson, terrorism. He's facing over 100 years in prison. So that Chardo said that adding the ethnic intimidation element would likely not have a big impact on the sentencing due to the seriousness of the existing charges. But he hasn't ruled out adding that charge.